I welcome everyone back. Our next guest speaker describes herself as someone who has never had a proper job. But this guest speaker hasn't stopped her from being one of the most sought after creative industries business advisors in Australia. After freelancing and setting up her own production company in the early 1990s, Monica Davidson started offering help to other creatives and their businesses. Today, Monica is a renowned expert in her field and runs workshops, delivers keynotes and presentations, mentors individual practitioners, and is also a consultant to larger organisations. Monica can often be found providing lectures at AFTRS and NIDA and is the author of the Australian version of Freelancing for Dummies. Page stuck here. In 2013, Monica was appointed as the first Creative Industries Business Advisor by New South Wales Small Business Commissioner, and the following year completed her Masters in Screen Business at AFTRS, focusing on the benefits of mentoring for women in film. Monica was recently named as one of Westpac's 100 Women of Influence, and in 2016 her award-winning company, the Creative Plus Business Group, joined the City of Sydney Creative Space Project. Please join me in welcoming Monica Davidson to the stage. Thanks, Monica.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I'm thrilled to have been chosen to be here. And I've been asked to share with you my strategies for building a career in the screen industry. I think I've been invited to take part in the Athena project for 3 reasons. The first one is, as mentioned, my work as a creative industries business advisor, which is the world's longest job title, means that I help people build their careers in all aspects of creative industry, and of course that includes screen. But I also help people deal with success, which is sometimes more scary than we think. The second reason that I've been asked to be here is because I am a filmmaker. My own creative practice is as a writer and a filmmaker, and I have worked consistently since the 1980s when I made my first short film, and I'm now putting the finishing touches on a documentary called Handbag, which is about the relationship between gay men and straight women, and has an exclusively female crew. The third reason that I've been asked to be here is because of this. So for my master's degree in screen business at AFTRS in 2014, I chose to examine the issue of gender inequity, particularly in the areas of writing and directing. I then took my thesis and wrote a mini version for the Women in Film issue of Lumina magazine, which has been cited several times tonight already, the Women in Film issue, which was pioneered and championed by Sandra Levy at AFTRS and led to, as you've heard tonight, the renewed interest in gender on and off screen in Australia. I originally examined this issue in 2005 when I wrote an article for Metro magazine called Jobs for the Girls, with a question mark, which looked at the quiet death of affirmative action programs in the film industry, a death that I witnessed close up when I graduated from university in the early 1990s. Those were, in many ways, the halcyon days for my generation of filmmakers. By the time I graduated university, 15 years of various women in screen programs and funding support had led to a great number of female filmmakers out there in the world making wonderful films. And I was personally inspired by 2 of them. Gillian Armstrong, who is joining us here today, she not only paved the way for women filmmakers like me by just being visible as a woman doing her job, but she also helped to create 2 characters in Sibylla and Jackie Mullins that actually shaped the woman that I am today. I think I'm actually a hybrid of these 2 women. More clothed, but still. The other woman that inspired me was a woman called Joan Long. Joan co-produced Puberty Blues, which was the first time that I ever saw my own life experience on film, growing up in Newcastle. And I was lucky enough to be mentored by Joan when I moved to Sydney to pursue my film career in the late 1980s. And why my fascination with women filmmakers? Well, because I am one. And because, like most of us, I've experienced my fair share of overt, subtle, and covert sexism all through my career. At high school, when I told my careers advisor that I wanted to be a filmmaker, I was told that it was impossible. The best that I could hope for was work in an advertising agency, which was arranged for me, and I was the receptionist. At university, I took over as the president of Student TV and was immediately accused by my main rival of sleeping with the outgoing president. The sad thing is that I actually really wanted to, but I didn't because I was worried about that accusation. That was my first experience of damned if you do, damned if you don't. At my first professional job interview while I was still at university to work as a camera assistant on a live TV show, I was asked if I could lift heavy things, clearly, and would I be safe going home late at night by myself. I was later told by the producer explicitly that the only reason I got the job was because no man applied. Later in my career, I wanted to retrain as a Steadicam operator, and I was told that the harness was not designed for girls, as you can see, and that I would have to carry 20 kilograms on the front of my body and walk like a duck. Having recently had twins, I assured the man in charge this would not be a problem and that you actually can't take that off after a period of time, but he still was not very pleased. I ran a commercial and corporate production company for 20 years called Two Shot Media, and for almost all of that time, I never told my clients that I was a mother. Never. And when I first started exploring the idea of writing about all of this, about the inequality for women, particularly in areas of creative leadership, certain pillars of the screen industry, both male and female, told me that this was a 70s issue and that the problem of gender equity had been solved. I'm glad that they were, glad and upset that they were wrong. And the final reason, of course, is that because I have to tell people that I have a master's degree. We've been talking about covert sexism and unconscious bias. I usually insist on calling it my mistress degree. And yes, I also have a spinster's degree, for the record. I believe that my experiences are not unique to me or to any woman in a male-dominated field. But the thing is, this is not a male-dominated field, and I'm going to reiterate some of the statistics that we've heard tonight, if I can. According to an Arts Hub survey a couple of years ago, 51.5% of people working in the Australian screen industry are female. We make up more than half of the audience, as we've already heard. These days, we make up more than 50% of all film graduates, and that does 48% female over the history of AFTRS. We make up many, many more than 50% of screen administration. And what really annoys me is that we punch above our weight consistently. Films are creatively led by women, weigh heavily at the box office, ACTRA and AFI awards, historically speaking, more so than what our representation would indicate. Which then leads to the question, why aren't we in charge again? There are lots of reasons. And my job here, unfortunately, is not to rehash those reasons, although if you would like to read about those reasons, you can download my thesis from my website and have a good look at it. I'd recommend that you get a box of tissues and prepare yourself for a bit of a cry, but it's important for us to know about these things. So, here are my 10 tips for career success from a lifetime of personal experience, my academic work, and yes, a lifetime of failing, because I think failure is the best teacher. So my first tip, just make stuff. Just make stuff. I don't know about some of the other women in the room who are my age, but we are jealous of you. We are jealous of you because when we were you, we had to get one of those to make a film with, and they were really heavy and hard to get. Film was really expensive. We didn't have cameras in our phones. We didn't have editing studios in our bedrooms. It was really hard to just make stuff. I reckon I got my first few short films made just because I could draw a storyboard and act out the whole film, sometimes, if necessary, in interpretive dance. You have access to the gear. You have the means of production. Don't stop yourself from making stuff. Your vagina will not get in the way, I promise. Tell your stories. Don't be ashamed to tell your stories, and don't be ashamed to tell the stories of other women. We are all listening, I promise. My second tip is never stop learning. The day you know everything is the day that you should just stay in bed. There will always be something new to learn. There will always be someone new to talk to, some new movie to see, some new book to read, or some new idea to think about. Keep your mind and your options open. The other good news about that is it will also help you to stay young, I think anyway. Tip number 3, set some goals. I think you need to know where you're going even if nobody else does. Even if that goal changes, you are the one climbing this mountain. You are the one who is captaining this ship. Save yourself the hassle and get an idea of where you want to go and what you want to get out of this crazy and unbelievably difficult life. It might help you stay the course if you do run into sea monsters or misogynists, both equally bad. Step number 4, find some cheerleaders. Gather around you the people who support you, whoever they might be, personal support, professional support, creative support. Cheerleaders are your advocates. They're not just the ones upon whose shoulders you can cry. They are the people who will open doors for you, introduce you to people, and cheer you on when you have lost your way and you don't know how to steer the course anymore. And I chose this image for a reason. Don't just surround yourself with people who support you. Surround yourself with men who support you. Men are going to make the difference. Because this is not a women's problem, this is an everyone problem, and everybody needs to get on board. There are men who hate this as much as we do. Maybe it hasn't been their personal experience, and maybe they couldn't tell the stories that I told you earlier, but they hate it as much as we do, and we need to give them some agency to help us make it different, even if it's just one guy who helps you out every now and then. And remember, when it comes to your cheerleaders, when it comes to your advocates, more than what you know and more than who you know, the secret to this industry is who knows you. The more people who know you, the more doors will be opened for you. Tip number 5, find a mentor. And mentors have already been mentioned a few times tonight. Find someone who is more experienced than you. Find someone who is willing to talk to you and give you advice and help you to climb up the ladder. Do whatever you can to find that person and avail yourself of some of the resources and programs that have been mentioned tonight to help you get in touch with those mentors. But more importantly than finding a mentor, be a mentor. There is always someone lower on the ladder than you. Always. Reach out to someone and give them a hand up. If we each help each other up the ladder, we will all be better off. Women with mentors, as it says there, have, and this is demonstrated in my thesis, greater career success, make more money, feel more confident, navigate the unwritten rules, and ultimately help other people. It's been proven in every way. Tip number 6, lean in. Sheryl Sandberg's book has become a contentious topic for some people, and it distresses me when I get involved in arguments with other feminists about this book. But she pointed out the reality. Women in corporate life fall behind early and lose ground with every single step. And that is true of us as well. So make sure you pursue your ambition. If you are ambitious, be proud of yourself for it. Be willing to lead, and don't hold yourself back. I love this quote. I have bursts of being a lady, but it doesn't last long. In deference to my grandmother who's watching us at the moment on the live stream, I won't actually say that word, but please stop worrying so much about being a lady. It's just holding you back. You don't need to be polite. You don't need to allow yourself to be interrupted when someone starts to talk over the top of you. You don't even need to get out of the way in the street when someone is walking straight towards you. I don't know how many of you have been indulging in this particularly painful experiment. I have been for some time, and I'm quite a sturdy woman. You'd be amazed at how many men just walk straight into you as if you weren't even there. I recommend that you all give it a go. Stop getting out of the way. Stop saying sorry all the time. Stop apologising for existing. Take up as much room as possible, particularly on public transport. Sit with your legs as wide apart as you need to. We need to have the same expectations of behaviour for both men and women. And if that means that we all have to stop being ladies, then so be it. By the age of 12, as I found in my thesis, and this quote upsets me every time I put it up. By the age of 12, it is clear that both girls and boys have learned to equate maleness with opportunity and femininity with constraint. By 12, we need to be better role models. All of us, men and women, need to be better role models for girls and boys. This is a cartoon that I have always liked. Apparently it's cheating to climb up on the affirmative action box. Tip number 8, practice affirmative action whenever you can. Whenever you can, in whatever situation you can, deliberately and mindfully hire a woman. You have to do it too. We can't all just sit around waiting for somebody else to do it. And what's really extraordinary is how much it challenges people. Having just finished a documentary which has an almost exclusively female crew, I was shocked to find how much this kind of subtle sexism that we've been talking about enters into it. When I was looking for an editor, I asked around, and every time somebody mentioned a man's name, I would always say, I'm only hiring a woman. The next response was always, oh, well, I know this fantastic woman, and actually now that you mention it, she's probably better. Why didn't you say that in the first place? Women get further when they get a leg up. We've already proven that tonight. And the other thing we have to understand is that the meritocracy that we're always being told about is a complete myth. A merit-based system discriminates on the basis of how much merit a person has, assuming the precondition that everyone has the equal opportunity to acquire it and favours those who have more of it. In other words, every time you get told the meritocracy myth, that it is a level playing field, ask the question, who decides what constitutes merit? Because I would argue that in our industry, it's largely men who have been doing that. And from where I stand, men have been getting ahead in the screen industry because they're men for a really long time, but they don't seem to worry about it at all. They don't seem to stand around and think, gosh, did I get this job just because I'm a bloke? Oh no, maybe that means I'm not good enough. They don't seem to worry about the gender bias in their favour, and neither should we. Don't be so worried about it. It's a small step up. You got the job because you were great and because you're a woman. Number 9, take personal responsibility. This is a tough industry, and it's even tougher for women. It's not fair. Toughen up. This is a game of musical chairs, and there are more bums than chairs. You are responsible for what happens in your life. Make your mistakes, suck up your disappointments, celebrate your achievements, shout about your skills from the highest rooftops, and advocate for yourself and your own agency. Ginger Rogers has famously been attributed, although I'm sad to say falsely, by saying that she was just as good as Fred Astaire, except she had to dance backwards and in heels. Yeah, sure, we are dancing backwards and we are in heels, but at least we're dancing. And tip number 10, insist on better. This is Alice Lowe, the director of the British film Sightseers. And yes, she was pregnant at the time. I have been pregnant on film sets. I have had my babies on film sets. I've had a nanny on a film set. We need to insist on a redefinition of work. We do not need to ask permission to be here. We need to expect the screen industry in all of its forms to make it easier for us to go to work in whatever way, shape or form that looks like. Expect your industry to welcome you. Expect the nature of the nature of your work to accept you in whatever shape you are, wherever you go. Demand childcare. Demand a parent room for you to feed in. Demand whatever you need to make your working life more possible, given whatever demands you might have at home. And please remember, as I said before, this is not a woman's problem. Elizabeth Broderick said this: "It's time to stop asking what's wrong with women that they're not making it to the top, and start asking what's wrong with an industry that can't retain and promote women." And I'm thrilled that we've been asking that question now, and that question is being answered. Thank you. So I'd like to invite some of my fellow filmmakers and representatives from Screen up here to talk to us. First of all, I'd like to invite Debbie Lee up to the stage. Debbie Lee is Matchbox Pictures Director of Scripted Development, and Debbie provides creative leadership to the development of scripted content across a broad range of genres and markets. Welcome, Debbie. Felicity Packard is also here. She is a screenwriter, a producer and an academic. She's one of the writers behind the Underbelly true crime drama franchise. She was the lead writer and producer of Anzac Girls, which screened on the ABC in 2014. Thanks, Felicity. I'd like to invite Kate McQuillan up. Yay. Kate is the co-creator of the children's TV series Dirt Girl World from her home here in the Northern Rivers region. Represent. She and her partner Huey Eustace are Me Productions, creating out their children's programming for a new generation of content seekers. Thanks for joining us, Kate. And finally, Victoria Baldock has... Oh, yay, yes, we all say yay. Victoria has 20 years' experience in airtime sales, PR and international distribution. She's the head of international sales. She was the head of international sales for Southern Star between 1997 and 2004. Victoria contracted millions of dollars worth of licensing agreements, placing thousands of hours of content with broadcasters all over the globe. So please, again, just thank our panel for joining us. I'm going to ask each of our panellists a question, which they are prepared for, and then we'll open it up to the floor. So first of all, I wanted to ask Victoria a question. We were talking on the phone before this panel, and she told me some interesting stories about a mentor that she had who was a man. So would you mind sharing some of that experience with us?
Sure, with pleasure, thank you. It's just been so amazing hearing Gillian's story. So much is going through my head about, and putting that with how my career went. But yes, I did have a mentor when I started my company, Verve Entertainment, which was particularly interesting because I'd been working for a number of years at Southern Star, which was actually, the sales side of Southern Star was heavily female, with run by Robin Watts. I don't know if any of you know who Robin Watts is, but she's a woman that she's a force. She's amazing and just such an inspiration. Kathy Payne also, who was a very, very, very pivotal, who now runs Endemol internationally. So I had these and I was in my early 20s, I had these incredibly strong women that I was working with, and then I left Southern Star to start my own, which is sort of that whole thing about a career in my way and why I did that and things like that, which was actually completely bonkers at the time, but I did it. But the mentor I had, yes, he was a male, and which I didn't really ever think about, because all that mattered was that he actually really believed in me. And he taught me to believe in myself and allowed me to think that that was okay. And I realised actually, and I love Gillian so much, that in your presentation you talked about your parents, because that was it. My mum did the same thing. She just taught me to, we were just the same. We were people. We were out there. We were doing. You could go to uni. You could do all this, and you just could, and you just did. And this is what you did. And you worked your butt off, you know, and that's what you did. And so, but the tenacity that you need and the self-definition that you need to believe in yourself, I think that's, as a mentor and as a man, he understood that, and I think he also understood that if he believed in me, I would believe in me, and that was going to propel more than, you know,
Just
along
being
with
on
luck
your own.
and timing and
And all the other
all
things.
that stuff. Yeah.
Thanks, Victoria.
His name's Michael Duff, and he actually has a company called MindSense that you can look at online, and his whole model is about mindfulness, and that belief and self-definition leads into emotional states, which leads into behaviours, which leads into results, which leads into self-definition and beliefs. It's really powerful, actually. It's a really powerful tool in any, you know.
Fantastic. I also was mentored by a man. Some of you might know him. His name is David Hannay. So, yeah, he was a proper man, yeah, like a cross between a bikie and Santa. No, that's pretty accurate, actually. Felicity, so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the importance of craft in your practice, because we've talked a lot tonight about career and we've talked a lot about programs, but I thought I might throw over to you. How important do you think craft and practice are in the building of a screen career?
Oh, look, I think it's huge. I learnt my trade. I'm a screenwriter, first and foremost, for television, on Home and Away. I'd written a lot before I wrote for Home and Away, but I learnt so much about how to make scenes work hard, about how to make characters, you know, operate in really confined space. One of my favourite authors in the whole world is Jane Austen, and she said once that, you know, she works on this little piece of ivory, 2 or 3 inches wide, and she also said 3 or 4 families in a country village is great material. It's Home and Away for you. But there's something about the craft of constraint, and that comes down to budget. I think it's learning craft is not only about learning how to be a better writer by going through draft after draft, though that's terribly important as well. It's also about learning the place where the screenplay and production meet. It's about learning how to make why a scene has to be cut, why you have to lose 2 minutes out of a scene, why that whole character has to go, why. How do you make how do you retain the integrity of your story when the budget you're over budget and you can't have all these scenes which were written for night have to suddenly be shot in the day, and you know all that sort of stuff. I think learning all of that is really, really important in terms of, because I'm also a producer, and so learning how to where screenwriting and filmmaking connect was really important. I'd also say I've had, just about the mentor thing, I've been very lucky with my mentors too, who really, both male and female, who've really kind of, you know, nurtured me and helped me through. So yeah, mentors. Go for it.
Fantastic, thanks. Debbie, I wanted to ask you a little bit about goals. I'm obviously very goal-oriented, but other people might not necessarily be so. What's your opinion about the importance of setting goals for a screen career?
I hadn't really thought about it that much before coming up here and thinking, am I a goal-oriented person? And I'd never really thought of myself that way, but really just actually having to think about it now. I realised that when I was 15, I really had to I made a 5-year plan about how I could escape from my quite strict Chinese family who would never accept me going into anything creative. So I decided at 15 I'm going to leave school, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to get financial independence, I'm going to go back to tech and do my HSC, and then I'm going to get into, what was Newswit at the time, which is now UTS, into communications. So I set up that plan, did all of that, so I realised, it actually set the course of my life, having that very clear 5-year plan at a young age. And then from that point on, really, I didn't make those sorts of specific goals, but every step of the way, I guess I have, in all the jobs I've had, certainly in the job I've got now, it's constantly about being goal driven, although I wouldn't necessarily have characterised it as such at the time. So yes, it has actually, upon reflection, been really key to me.
I don't think it's necessarily the be-all and end-all, but it certainly helps.
I think it's that thing of not wanting to be tunnel visioned, I wanted to be a radio journalist. Well, I didn't do that. Then I wanted to be a writer-director. Well, I didn't do that. But but I did all of those things along the way to some extent. But it's been quite organic, and I've made decisions along the way, which have led me to where I am, and I don't regret that. So
I think one of the most important things as well is to understand that you're actually allowed to change your mind. Particularly as you get older and life changes, you don't actually have to do the thing that you wanted to do when you were 15 for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
In the same way that you don't actually have to marry your high school sweetheart either. You are allowed to, shift and change and change the course.
And seizing moments, and you do change, all along the way. So,
Kate, I might throw you under the bus if that's all right. A few of the women that I've spoken to tonight, I know it's something in my own experience, those of us who are mothers have a slightly different experience in terms of career juggling than those of us who aren't. Do you feel like answering the big question? How do we juggle our family and our career?
Well, I'm the motherless one. So there's no kids in our family. So I'm the person who made a choice not to have a family. But the people, it's interesting with Jerko World, there was 171 people who worked on the show. 91 were women, and that included the executive producer, series producer, line producer, 2 animation directors across the co-production, the editor. It goes on and on. Lots and lots of women animators, and all of those people were in my care and in my love, and a lot of them had families, and we just made it our job never to make it an issue. I think every woman who I've worked with who's a mother has never used being a mother as an excuse. And any person who's not a mother who leads mothers needs to understand that there are times when they need to be a mum first and somebody who works for you second. And I feel like that's just that's the journey of who we are as human beings and how we need to work together as great people. So for me, it's interesting because of making a choice about not having a family. I completely respect and admire people who have a family and do what I do because I just can't imagine it. I just go, I work this ridiculous clock, I do all this crazy stuff, and then I look at people. I think people who know someone like Justine Flynn, who works in the kids industry, who's got 5 adopted Korean children, and it's just you just go, what? How do you do this? And I think that it's our job as people who are producers, who are employing women, to make sure that we are so up on that and understand that we're living in 2016. Bring your kid to work. You don't even need to go to a secret room. Boob feed them on set for all I care.
Absolutely.
Honestly, it's nobody... I know we live in a bubble. I know that the North Coast seems to be a bit of a bubble, but it's just, to be quite honest, it's not an issue. I love holding my staff's babies.
I have to tell you, because I always had children while I was running my production company, I always had on-set childcare. And you are able to attract some real heavy hitters,
Absolutely.
male and female, when you provide on-set childcare, because you finally give really great people a chance to go back to work and not have to worry about their kids.
We've got 80% women in our team, and so all the time, and so it's how it is. And you know, I kind of figure, I've been to a lot of offices with men where they've got dogs. Has everybody been to those ones? Cool, bring your dog to work. No, don't bring your baby. Seriously?
It's being universally proven as we speak that working environments that make life easier for working mothers make life easier for everybody, working parents and also non-parents in the same working environment.
And
So-
equally, I want to say that it's not just mums who bring their children to work in our workspace. Dads bring their kids to work. Uncles bring their kids to work. The neighbours drop in with their kids.
Oh, we all want to work with you now, Kate. That sounds unreal. All right, well, I've put the panel on the spot long enough. Now it's your turn. Who has a question for our panel? Anyone? Yes.
Hi, my name is Hattie.
Oh, wait, sorry, Hattie. I think there's a microphone coming.
Scurriously.
Scary.
Hi, I'm Hattie, and my background is as a director, and I just find the parent thing the issue for me. Living regionally is one thing, but raising children now and then thinking about how many hours I put in as a director on a feature film, I just can't see. That's sort of my block, and maybe it's different with television, but it's just living and breathing a film and owning the film and long hours on set and pre-production. And so that to me is one of the reasons for that dire statistic that isn't so talked about. So that's for all the panel really to...
Can I grab this one? Part of my... Sorry, it's not about me, but it is. I don't think so.
It can be.
I looked at that in my thesis because that's one of the reasons that is always cited for why we vanish, although we are in equal numbers as workers and we graduate from university and film school in equal numbers. Where do we go in the middle of our career? And the easy answer is that we're just all running off and having babies and not coming back, which wouldn't explain the complete absence of women who don't have children, one. Secondly, there are plenty of professions within the screen industry which are female-dominated. Hair and makeup is a female-dominated industry. Presumably lots of those women are having children and still managing to figure out how to come to work. So the only thing that I could do, because there were no statistics for the Australian industry, was to look at some Harvard-based research about women, highly professional women. So women who have a high degree of training and who have pursued careers that require them to continually maintain that kind of high level of professionalism. And yes, of those women, 43% leave their workforce or off-ramp because they have children. But they're only gone for 2.2 years on average. The same survey found that 23% of men also off-ramp for the same amount of time. But they off-ramp not to have children, but to study or travel. So we aren't leaving in droves and not coming back. I don't know the answers, but certainly that's a myth that we need to stop propelling. It doesn't help you, Hattie, at all, unfortunately, but it's nice to know that it's not just that we all somehow have babies and then disappear off the face of the earth.
Can I say something, Hattie, too? Like, I just think to myself about, I totally get how much time, energy and effort it takes. But I also understand that we're really good as women to manage, that we're not the only person who is raising our children and that there's other people in the equation who can come and help us. Because, you know, I wonder, do you want your kids to see that you are a person who goes for your dreams, who has a vision? You know what I mean? Like, that story is as strong as being there to tuck them into bed, to be that role model that says, my mum had this vision and she went and she did it, you know, and she achieved this stuff. And what your children see in you is an example of a lifetime And I'm not saying that it's easy, and I'm not trying to make it, the whole, this is the Emerald City, Kate McQuillan, But do you know what I mean? Like, there are other things when you're worrying about, was I there for this or was I there for that? Or did you give up on yourself? Or did you back yourself and find ways to provide loving care for them, take them on set, work with the people that you're working on, find ways around it. And maybe your film, instead of taking 2 years, might take 2.5 years because there's something about your set of circumstances that you need to cater for. But I just think that there's a greater story in there for your family than just, I wasn't there to be at the school concert or wipe their nose or do something else. Maybe something greater than what you're holding in for yourself at the moment.
Can I say something about that?
Please.
I think it's, it's also, isn't it, it's about finding work practices and day partying and things that work for you. And I mean, I have my beautiful 5, 6-year-old and 7-year-old, and I think that's really interesting that you just said it's 2.2 years because I was still, as I was going into hospital, I was still on the phone during a deal with Italy, and then it was like the baby popped out, and I'm still kind of like, can you just take that? And then there I was in the office with the bassinet under the thing, but when I had Ella, my second one, I just went, right, I'm done. Like, this is what I've waited for my whole life. I want to have this time with my children, and it was really... It was an active decision and I guess an active plan that I was in a situation where I was fortunate. I could sort of take that flexibility for really until my last one went to school, which was last year, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, hello, oh, I've got a day again. Like, isn't that great? But it's I think it's the decision on how long you perhaps allow yourself to say, actually, I won't do this project for the next year, or I'll give my family that time. And then when you decide to go back, it's then finding work practices that... See, I don't try and do both anymore. Once the kids come home from school, I'm back into mummy zone. I can't do it to them, and I can't do it to people I'm working with. I find it really challenging to, if a call happens and they come in and it's like, Mum, and it's like... I've got these signs. It's like, if mummy goes like that, you really have to hush.
I think that
And you're
happened when we were on the phone.
Yeah,
Were you throwing lollies at them to make them shut up while we were on the phone?
Halloween, here, have a lolly.
But how do you, every single application, I think, that came in for the project, I would say 90% of them have the same fears and thoughts that you're having. And so I think maybe it'll be really beautiful over the next few days for us to all talk about that out loud, and I think for people to talk, especially mothers, to be able to talk more openly with each other about the solutions that they've found and share them so that we don't feel like we're horrible.
I think that's the thing, though. We don't talk about it. We just seem to think that we're supposed to insert ourselves back into this thing called work that we didn't even invent. And then we're really asking too much of ourselves.
We also really think that everyone else is doing it better than us as well, and you're kind of thinking, why am I slamming the milk down, or why am I sort of dragging my feet to the bathroom at the end of the day because I'm beyond exhausted that I could ever believe I would be, and you think, oh, there's no one else doing that, but no, we kind of are.
Hands up, anyone in the room who's thrown lollies at their children to stop them from talking to them on the phone. Excellent. See, you are not alone. And do we have any other questions from the room or from Twitter? Yes. Oh, hi. And then there's one over there. So, yep.
Hi, my name is Yudan. I'm an emerging Indigenous filmmaker, and I'm also 50. And that really, every time you talk about the young filmmakers, I start going, oh, maybe I should go somewhere else. There's just that feeling of, I look at everyone going, oh, they're so established, and I'm going, I'm just making a pivot and a career change, and you sort of still keep the other job because you're trying to feed your family, and I just find it's a very weird thing being in Byron Bay for 20 years, and you can just reinvent yourself like that, and it's like, oh yeah, well this time I'm going to do this instead, and it just works, and you try and break into the film industry, and it's like, what? I have to get credits? Like what? What are you talking about? And so I just really want someone to give me some guidance on, like I want to be a director, but it's the one thing I haven't even gone anywhere near because I have no idea how to even go there when the doors don't open, I've done producing and writing and lots of other things. But I just, I guess I just want to hear from the panel about that. Thanks.
Who'd like to take that one?
I'd say that Monica's advice, just make stuff, is the first place to go. I mean, the fact is to go straight from not having any credits to lots of credits or to getting a feature film, it's really difficult. But if you've done what Gillian did and make short films, stick them up on YouTube. And this also goes to what you were asking, Hattie. Goal setting is really important, but the goals don't have to be huge. I mean, making an Oscar-winning feature film, wouldn't we all love to do that? But that's a very big goal. I think making a really beautifully crafted short film is a really good thing to do. There are so many competitions, there are so many pathways, there are so many festivals which would support that. So I would start there. I would I don't mean think small in the way of there has to be a little tiny theme or a little. It can have an enormous theme, but I think it's so expensive, it's so time consuming to make film or TV. I would think small in scope, big in ideas, big in commitment, big in honesty, big in storytelling, all of that. And I'd start there. I think that, and get yourself a credit, because there it is. Here is my 7-minute film, my 5-minute film, my 15-minute film. I would do that. And then I would use that as a calling card. I would go and hassle Matchbox and Screen Time, and I would turn up with this and say, I want to, can I come and sit in on the writer's room? Can I be a director's attachment on the next thing you're doing? And you'd be surprised how often they'll say yes.
And it's true. Everyone needs a calling card. That's the thing. That's what I always say to people as well. If you want to be a writer, you can't just say you want to be a writer. You have to write. If you want to be a director, you kind of have to direct. And
You'd obviously have to check the terms of the different funds that are out there, but emerging doesn't mean young. It means emerging. It used to mean young, but now it means emerging. And I think a lot of the programs that were discussed, there was no age limit.
I think it's a really, really valid point, a really interesting point, though, the idea of that transition in your career, and how you do that, when you're younger and you've got that, and I think it was something Gillian said too, but, you don't have the responsibilities of having to pay a mortgage and feed your family and all that. You've got that flexibility and that fearlessness that you can just jump all in and do, all sorts of things. But and I've done the same thing. We moved up here 3 years ago and I've transitioned out of running Verve Entertainment and being overseas every 6 months in France, doing, the markets, and I can't do that anymore, and I can't, but it's just, and I also realised that I, as a distributor, was never allowing myself my own creativity, because I was always the bridge between the business and the creativity. So I'm allowing myself this transition thing, but it's a very different stage. But the other piece of advice that I'm finding I'm using again, that I used early on, which was from my mentor, that I found amazing, is he used to, when you're starting something, whether it be when you're younger, when you're beginning, when you're emerging, when you're transitioning, whatever it may be, but when you're standing at that bottom of the mountain and looking up, and it feels just that, like this enormous mountain, and every day you think, I'm going to set a goal and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and all you've got to do is climb. You also need to, Mike was really big on this to me. He used to say, Vic, 3 things a day. 3 things a day, whether that means I'm going to make my calling card and I'm going to make my short film, I'm going to do this, whether it means today I've got to set up my invoicing system and my blah, 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 whatever it is. 3 things a day. If you finish them early, go to the beach. If you don't finish them, work till 4 in the morning. Because that's the thing about you setting a goal for, because yes, you might have to still work and to feed your family and do what you've been doing, but if it's a really great thing when you're transitioning into something new, because you can't spend full time all week on it, but you might be able to say, okay, really, I can give myself 8 hours a week to pursue my new vision of me being a director. And to do that, I need to do this, this and this, and I'm going to give myself that much time, and I'm going to set that goal. Actually, that's kind of similar, isn't it, to some of the things we're going to cover in your...
Yeah.
But, then applaud yourself and celebrate when you've done those things, because you're on the path, which is really nice.
We just have time for one more. I think there was a lady over here. Yeah.
I'm
Just 1 second.
Hi, I'm a writer, and back in the day I was a scriptwriter too, and I just wanted to build on that point about mothers and working. I actually quit work when my child was 2.5 because he has autism, and I couldn't bring him to work. He needed my sole attention, and did really for 10 years, and now I'm just so thrilled to be, I'm 48, coming back and thinking, I mean, I really had thought with the ideas I had from 10 years ago that there would be no question I would be accepted back into an industry like this. So I think it's really extraordinary to have this kind of forum, not just for women, but also I'm hearing all the time for older women or for women who have had different kinds of careers, because I just assumed it was over. And when I did, there was a sort of, it's a hard enough industry as it is, and then to be out of it for 10 years. So as well as being very accepting of women who have kids coming into the, on set with children, I think it's great also to be really accepting of women who've quit work for good reasons and had to give a certain, and rightly say for me, give a certain portion of their life solely to that and then coming back. Or they might have other reasons why, ill health. There are so many challenges that we all face as we go through life. And to accept those commitments as a carer, it's incredibly moving to me to hear that people are open to it and that people respect it, and to let people come back in too. So I just wanted to thank you for that. Yeah.
So we're going to wrap it up now. I'm going to hand back over, but I think I speak for the whole panel in thanking Screenworks for the Athena project and for putting this together and for inviting all of us to take part. And although it won't benefit the people watching us at home, we are all hanging around. So those of you who are in the room, do please feel free to come and say hello to us at some point. Can you please thank the panel again for their time?
I'd just like to say a really big thank you to the audience for being here tonight, to our fabulous guest speakers who have just made it such an informative and rewarding evening, and a big thank you to Monica Davidson, who has been so supportive in getting this whole event together. So a big round of applause. On behalf of Screenworks, I would like to again thank Screen Australia for the support that they have given with the Athena project and for all the work that they have been doing with their Gender Matters initiatives. Sorry, turning pages. And a very big thank you to our live hub partners across Australia. We hope that everyone has gotten a lot out of these sessions and the information throughout the night. Thank you to our live streaming crew down the back here and helping us out here in Byron Bay. We will be making that, let's applaud the live streaming crew as well. Taking us out there to the world. We will be making the live stream available to watch on our website, so if you want to revisit anything, it will be there. It's also, you're able to replay it again tonight if you want to check it. Thank you to the wonderful Auslan interpreters for taking our message out there. That's all for tonight. Please take care in getting home and keep an eye out on our website for more updates on our gender initiatives. Thank you very much. Good night.